The school hallway froze as Officer Stanton slammed Jamal against the lockers, pinning him down. Phones recorded, but no one dared to help. "This is what happens when punks like you don't learn respect," the officer sneered. Then a whisper spread through the crowd. "His dad works for the FBI." What happened next? No one saw it coming. The school hallways were alive with chatter, lockers slamming, sneakers squeaking against the polished floor, until everything stopped. 14-year-old Jamal Brown barely had time to register the looming figure before Officer Greg Stanton shoved him hard against the cold metal of the lockers. The impact sent a sharp jolt through his body, and his backpack nearly slipped from his shoulder. The officer's voice was low, dripping with authority. "You think you can just walk around here like you own the place?" Stanton sneered, eyes locking onto Jamal like a predator sizing up its prey. Jamal's pulse spiked. Let me see what's in your pockets." It wasn't a question. Before Jamal could react, rough fingers yanked the strap of his backpack, tearing it away. The zipper snapped open, spilling his belongings onto the floor. Books, pencils, a crumpled math worksheet, and his half-eaten sandwich skidding across the tiles. A deep silence swallowed the hallway. A few students stepped back. Others, eyes wide, lifted their phones, cameras rolling. Jamal's breath hitched as Stanton seized his wrist, twisting it behind his back with brutal force. "Resisting, huh?" The officer's smirk was sharp, smug. Pain shot up Jamal's arm. He clenched his jaw, trying to suppress a wince. He knew better than to struggle. He had seen what happened to people who did, stories that ended in handcuffs, in bruises, or worse. "Stop!" The command cracked through the tension like a whip. Ms. Whitaker, his history teacher, charged forward, her heels clicking against the tile. "Let go of him. He's a child." But Stanton didn't move, didn't loosen his grip. His knee pressed into Jamal's back, forcing him down. The floor was ice against his cheek, the weight on his spine making it hard to breathe. "This is what happens when punks like you don't learn respect." Tears burned at the edges of Jamal's vision, not just from pain, but from something deeper. Humiliation, helplessness, the realization that no one was stopping this. The crowd watched, silent witnesses, their expressions a mix of fear, shock, and something worse, resignation. Then, somewhere in the sea of faces, a hushed voice. "Doesn't Jamal's dad work for the government?" A pause, a shift in the air. He did. And the FBI was already on its way. Jamal's father, Special Agent Anthony Brown, was deep in a classified briefing when his phone erupted with notifications. Screens around the conference room flickered with high-priority alerts, but nothing froze his blood like the message that lit up his screen. Videos, frantic texts from parents, and one chilling call from the school principal. "Your son is being detained by Officer Stanton. You might want to come down here immediately." Silence stretched in the room, but Brown was already moving. His chair scraped back, his jaw set. "Suit up," he ordered his team, his voice razor sharp. "We're moving." No hesitation, no wasted time. His men knew better than to ask questions. Within seconds, a fleet of black SUVs peeled out from the federal building, slicing through traffic like a convoy on a mission. Inside the school, Stanton still had Jamal pinned, his knee digging into the boy's spine. He loomed over him, his grip tightening with every passing second. "You people think you're above the law," Stanton muttered under his breath. Jamal barely heard him past the ringing in his ears. His wrist throbbed, his breathing shallow, but before he could even process the words, the front doors of the school exploded open. Gasps rippled through the hall. 5 men in dark suits stormed inside, their movements precise, controlled, dangerous. They didn't hesitate. They didn't ask permission. The school's security froze, powerless to stop them. They might as well have been statues, because these men didn't come to talk. Leading the charge, Anthony Brown's presence was like a cold front sweeping through the building. His badge flashed, but it was his eyes, cold, unreadable, that sent a clear message. "This ends now. Officer Stanton." His voice was steel, sharp and commanding. "Let him go." Stanton turned, still riding the high of unchecked authority, a sneer curling his lips. "And who the hell are you to tell me what to—" A badge appeared inches from his face. "FBI." 3 letters that hit like a hammer. Brown's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "You just assaulted a federal agent's son. And you did it on camera." A shift. The weight of 1,000 lenses, 1,000 eyes burning into Stanton's skin. He could feel them now, the students, the teachers, the parents watching in stunned silence. The phones, dozens of them, recording, capturing everything. His face drained of color, his mouth opened, grasping for an excuse, a justification, anything. "Stand down." Brown's voice left no room for negotiation. "Now." For the first time, Stanton hesitated. His hands lifted slowly, fingers twitching. The pressure on Jamal's back eased. The boy gasped, scrambling to his feet, clutching his wrist as he stumbled back. His father's presence was like oxygen after drowning. Relief. Safety. But then, "Sir!" A voice cut through. One of Brown's agents, stepping forward, tablet in hand. "We've got confirmation. This isn't his first time." The air in the hallway thickened. Brown turned, his gaze locked onto the agent. "We pulled his personnel files," the agent continued, voice tight. "Multiple complaints. Excessive force, targeting black students specifically, covered up by internal reviews. The guy's been getting away with this for years." A new fire ignited in Brown's eyes. He took a single step closer to Stanton, his expression unreadable. "Not anymore." Stanton's mouth opened, but the words caught in his throat. His confidence, his authority, gone. The weight of the moment pressed down on him like an avalanche, suffocating, inescapable. His gaze darted to the phones still recording, to the agents encircling him, to the hard, unreadable face of Anthony Brown. He had controlled this school for years, had ruled these hallways with impunity. But not anymore. "You don't understand." He looked suspicious. "You brutalized a child." Brown's voice was a blade, slicing through the air, through every weak excuse Stanton had ever used to justify his actions. "And you think that's just another Tuesday?" The air crackled with tension. The walls of the school, which had once protected Stanton, now felt like a cage closing in. "Officer Greg Stanton." One of the agents stepped forward, voice firm, resolute. "You are under arrest for excessive use of force, misconduct, and civil rights violations." The words rang out like a verdict. "Turn around." For a moment, Stanton didn't move. His hands twitched at his sides, his body rigid, like his mind was scrambling for a way out. But there was no way out. Not this time. A hand gripped his shoulder and forced him to turn. The familiar click of metal rang out as the cold steel of handcuffs snapped around his wrists. His own wrists. The same metal that had nearly been forced onto Jamal now bound him. The hallway erupted. Cheers. A wave of voices rising, students clapping, high-fiving. Some parents had already arrived, their faces a mix of outrage and relief, having seen the viral video. Ms. Whitaker exhaled, her shoulders dropping as if she'd been holding her breath the entire time. She turned to Jamal, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "It's over," she whispered. Jamal swallowed hard. His wrist still pulsed with pain, but something deeper, something heavier, had lifted. His heart hammered in his chest, not just from what had happened, but from what hadn't. He looked up just in time to see Stanton being forced to his knees, his face pale, his hands shackled. A man who had spent years making others feel powerless now had no power of his own. Poetic justice. As the agents pulled Stanton to his feet and led him away, Brown finally turned to his son. "Are you okay?" Jamal met his father's gaze, the full weight of everything settling inside him. He could still feel the cold floor against his cheek, Stanton's knee pressing him down, the fear that had gripped his entire body. But now, standing beside his father, surrounded by justice, by truth, he felt something else. Stronger. Safer. "Yeah," he said, his voice steady. "I am now." The video of Stanton's arrest went viral overnight. News stations picked it up. Civil rights groups called for deeper investigations into school policing. Parents demanded answers. And Jamal? He became a symbol, not because he wanted to be, but because he refused to be silent. He spoke out, standing before the school board, before city officials, before cameras that beamed his words across the country. "This isn't just about me," he said in his first interview. "It's about the ones who didn't have a camera watching, the ones who didn't have a father in the FBI. This has to stop." It didn't fix everything, but it started something, and sometimes that was enough.